Welcome to another episode of Hidden Gems with me, Natasha, your host. Thank you guys for all the feedback that you've been giving me. I need your help, though, on some solo episodes. Give me what you want me to dive deeper into. Send it to me on Instagram or whatever it is that you want. But you guys know this podcast, we bridge the gap between people who have found success in some area in life and people who feel stuck. We want to help those stuck people pivot to the right places. And today we have Erik Anders Lang on our podcast. And we're excited to have him. And the overview of this podcast is the power of change or embracing change.
Yes.
I think you, sir, can speak a lot about that topic.
Yeah, I mean, why do you think that?
Well, here you are with those questions.
I was told before the podcast started, I wasn't supposed to ask any questions. It's a clarifying question.
Yes,
where do you want me to go? There's there's all sorts of change.
Well, first, introduce yourself. I like for my guests to introduce themselves to our audience of Hidden Gems. So introduce yourself. Tell everyone who you are.
Very good. Yes. My name's Erik. From New Jersey. I live in Austin, Texas now. I lived in New York and LA. And I think my current role on the planet is centered around golf, building a golf community with Random Golf Club. And, I love being around people. I love events. I love being outside. I like puzzles. I like movies. I like going for walks. And I like interesting conversations, and we've talked a little bit about, like, I have a podcast. I love podcasts.
What's the name of your podcast?
It's actually it's my name. It's just the Erik Anders Lang Show. But I actually was going to name it something else.
And what was it?
But both of the other stupid names that I came up with were already taken.
Well, Hidden Gems is taken, but we still...
Hidden Gems is now taken.
No. Hidden Gems is... There's like 30 podcasts, 50 podcasts.
Oh, and you just went for it.
Why not?
I love that about you.
Because
that is great.
No other podcast is this one.
That's true. I mean, people are named Natasha.
Period.
What are you going to do?
But but this Natasha.
Yeah.
There's lots of Eriks out there.
You're right. There are. That's interesting. I have found other Erik Langs. Anyway, yeah. I think I do love podcasts because, whether you're, listening is one side of it. I think being in a podcast environment is cool because very rarely do you get the chance to sit down and be like, we're going to have a focused, intentional conversation about meaningful subjects.
Mm-hmm. Like change.
Like change, yes.
Mm-hmm. And pivoting. All right. So we like to do some icebreaker things here.
Breaking the ice.
Yeah. So you are from Jersey.
Yes.
What do you think of Jersey?
That's funny. What do I think of Jersey?
Because you don't live there anymore.
No, I don't. And I haven't, been to the house I grew up in a long time. I think, I have two thoughts about Jersey. Okay. One is what it is and what is everyone thinks it is.
And?
Everyone thinks it's Secaucus filled with, oil drums and parking lots and trucks and trash. People call Secaucus sea carcass.
Oh.
Yeah, because there was a lot of pig slaughtering going on in the 50s or something.
Oh.
It's kind of disgusting. And then people obviously think it's the Jersey Shore,
oh, yeah.
Yeah, which is entertaining.
Yep.
But New Jersey really is a really interesting place that I actually, looking back, was really lucky to grow up in because you have this kind of influence from one of the main cultural centers of America, like New York City. There's a lot of interesting, smart, creative people, around. Mm-hmm. And I grew up in a cute fucking neighborhood. I don't know, did you ever see The Family Stone? You never saw it?
No.
Well, anyway, if you've seen The Family Stone,
that's where you grew up.
The exteriors were shot in my hometown.
Oh, cool.
So all the houses and the buildings and stuff. So it's a really postcard little town. Mm-hmm. And I loved it. It was there was woods. I could go walk around. I could ride my bike. And ultimately, I did probably take it for granted, which I think most kids probably do.
Yeah. When did you move to New York?
So I was about 19.
And why New York?
I guess to back up, I had gotten kicked out of high school.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I'm not laughing at the fact that he got kicked out of high school. It's the way he said it.
It's funny, you know. It's funny now.
Yeah.
And it was even funny then. Like,
but why?
Why did I get kicked out?
Yeah.
I wasn't focusing on my studies. I mean, I wasn't.
So if you just don't get, like, you didn't get good grades, or?
Yeah, I didn't get good grades, but I was also like a problem. Like, I was an agitator.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
You know,
because I was going to say, they don't kick you out if you're just like failing every class.
They don't. Yeah. No, it was more than that.
Okay.
It was like, it wasn't just like like I wasn't receding. I was like offensive.
Okay. And why?
You know, I mean,
looking back.
Yeah, this is okay. This is like therapy. Okay,
yeah.
All right, I got it. Okay. You know, ever since I can remember, like even as even in kindergarten, right? Like I was always sort of this kind of class clown type character, and I loved to get in trouble essentially. And I guess you know, I've been to therapy. You could say I was looking for attention,
right?
And that's probably true, right? I liked to break the system a little bit, but it was always like playful. Like I wasn't coming in like, you know, it was always very much like funny. Well, I guess I've done so many things in school. Like, okay, one time I made an underground newspaper in second grade where it was like literally formatted like the New York Times, and we wrote all about how the janitor had a stomach problem and he had gas, and it was like really funny for an 8-year-old, you know what I mean? And I got in trouble for that. And like, I thought, but honestly, it was like kind of entrepreneurial. You know what I mean? Like I had here gone and made a newspaper that I probably could have sold.
Creative. It was very creative of you. Yeah.
Yeah. And then one time in first grade, the teacher left the room for like 2 minutes and was like, everybody behave. And I stood up on my desk and I was like, how long do you think I can hold my breath for? And someone was like, a minute. And I was like, I got it. And I did it. And I passed out. And that's how I chipped my tooth.
Oh, I did not know that story.
Yeah. So
well, can you smile for the camera? Great.
So, you know, it was always some type of like, kind of like clownish joker kind of activity. And then by the time, I mean, honestly, by the time I got to high school, I had like sort of found drugs, and I was like really into drugs, and I ended up getting sober. That's probably the first biggest change of my life.
Yep.
You know,
that what started that change? Because it's like you were the class clown, you wanted to get in trouble, you found drugs, but then at some point you were like, okay, this isn't serving me. What made you make the change?
Man, that is it's a great question. I can tell you're good at this. I mean, getting sober is different for everybody. And, you know, if you're going through that and you're listening, like my heart goes out to you. I actually had coffee this morning with a friend of mine who I've known for a year or so. We're kind of new friends. We met through golf, and he texted me and said, I saw you're in New York. I've been sober 45 days and I'd love to get together.
Oh my gosh, congrats to him.
Yeah.
Wow.
Max. And so he came down to the hotel and we went for a walk. And, you know, what was really funny is I wasn't really thinking much of it. You know what I mean? We got a lot going on. It's a busy day, whatever, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, we sat down and he was like, you know, how did you get sober? Right? Because I was 20 years old. So I'm 43 now. So I've been sober like a long fucking time, if I can say so.
23 years, Jordan year.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Look at that. I like that. And, you know, basically, I can tell you the story of what happened, which is like, I think it's kind of beautiful and cinematic, but like, I think zooming out, like,
or the mindset, I should say. You don't have to say the actual story if you don't want to.
Yeah, it's basically what precipitates a change of that level is actually, for me, it was a moment of clarity where you kind of, everything slows down and you stop and you realize a very deep truth. Right. And like, you know, I had a similar experience. Like, I don't know, have you ever seen The Secret? So I was, when that movie came out, I was dating someone and we were living together. And she was like, I was given this movie. You should watch it. I'm going out of town. I'll be back in 2 days. I watched it and I realized we shouldn't be together anymore. Oh. And it was like this like profound truth that just occurred. What were you going to say?
No. Well, did she also feel that way and that's why she wanted you to watch it?
No, she hadn't seen it yet.
What? Okay.
It was a total like,
Okay.
It was a total weird result.
Okay, continue. So you were
this
supposed to be
like
there.
deeper kind of like understanding can occur at certain moments in life. And I guess it's on us as listeners to this like spirit voice that's kind of the subconscious that shows up in times of pain, typically. Do I listen to it? And I had been sober before. I had been to rehab and things like that. So I was aware of like the protocol. This morning, it was a Wednesday morning, the last day in February of 2001. And I was like basically walking down the street, 6th Avenue and 4th Street. And it was February, so it's cold. It's really fucking cold. Yeah. And the rain, you know how the rain can kind of hit you in the back or it can hit you in the front?
Yeah.
And when it hits you in the front, it totally sucks.
Yeah.
And it's like February, so it's cold ass rain. And you know how sometimes you're walking down the street, a big street like 6th Avenue, and everyone's going the other direction?
Yeah.
And it was like God was basically saying, you're not living.
Whipping you in the face with water.
Yeah. Yeah. Using resources, right? Everyone's going in the other direction, pal. You are literally going against the stream. And so while it's fine and cute as an 8-year-old, you're the only one doing this or that.
Right.
I came to find out my middle name, Anders, means different. There's a point at which different is going to limit your ability to create. And whatever it is you create a great life, create friends, create wealth, whatever that is. And so it just hit me and everything slowed down. And I was like, you're not living. And then I took action.
When did you find out that's what your name meant?
It wasn't that long ago, actually. It was within the last 10 years.
And I think, though, it's all in how you look at the difference, right? You were saying, for sure it can be limiting, but it also can be the beauty that sets you aside.
Yeah.
Right? That difference. So interesting. So you had that moment of clarity during this walk in New York City.
A walk.
Yes, your walk. And you made the change. And did you go to rehab to do this? Did you just cold turkey? Like, what did you have to do to get sober?
Yeah. So I was going to get drugs.
Oh, wow.
Because it was like 10 in the morning and I ran out and like I was staying at somebody's house and like I basically like stole some shit that I was going to go trade, hopefully trade for some coke. And, you know, I had this moment right before that took place. Like I was like a block away. And, you know, I'm in that moment. I'm like, okay, like, am I actually going to do this right now? Because, you know, sometimes you can, you know, it's like one of the parts of this whole thing is it's like your ability to listen. And the more time you can, I found for me, the more time I can create for introspection, the more I can hear that voice and I can hear it say, that's a good idea. That's a bad idea. You should do this. Don't do that. Right. And like your internal wisdom is there. It's not a question of experience. It's a question of, I believe, quiet. And so, you know, I had heard this notion come into my head is like, am I going to stop doing this today? Right. I'm dying voluntarily. I've been given a life. I'm not using it.
I'm killing myself. Yeah.
And so anyway, I did something. I called my rehab counselor named Joy. And I was like, hey, Joy, I want to come back to rehab. And she was like, no, you can't. You've already been. You know what it is. You don't need to come. You should just go to a meeting.
Oh.
She's like, call Brian. Okay.
So at this time, you'd only been to rehab once?
I'd been a couple times, actually.
Okay,
like I was like, again, I didn't really take.
Okay. So that's why she said you should try something else.
Yeah. Yeah. She's like, you know all the material. You just need to go act and behave.
Right.
Like you just need to go like do the work.
Okay.
So I called Brian. Brian's a big part of my story. I talk about him all the time. I think about him all the time. Brian was, you know, in rehab with me years before. Brian, a little bit older than me, maybe a bit older than me. I was probably 18 when I met him and he was probably 30. And, you know, tall, good looking, coordinated, had a motorcycle, big beard. You know, we had a women's rehab across the street. He started dating the most beautiful woman there. Her name is Sarah. She's a Victoria's Secret model.
Yeah.
And, you know, you're not supposed to date in rehab, but whatever. Nobody cared because they were like the Hollywood couple in rehab.
Yeah.
So Brian answers the phone and he's like, where you been? I haven't heard from you in a while. I was like, dude, I need to like change my things. I got to get sober. And he's like, cool. Where are you? West 4th and 6th. I'll be right there.
So he lived in New York.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. He at the time was a general contractor. He basically built high rises.
Okay, cool.
So he also has he was like executive, but also had a hard hat. This is a fucking badass.
Yeah.
So Brian comes down and picks me up, gives me a cigarette. We go get coffee. We get breakfast. He's like, look, I got to go back to work, but let's go to a meeting tonight. So we'll go to a meeting. And the reason why I think about Brian a lot is like not that day. Well, it is that day, but it's actually what happened after that, which is as the years go by, Brian has twins. He and Sarah have a family. Start seeing Brian less. He moves upstate, see him way less. All of a sudden, I realize I haven't seen him in a year. I haven't heard from him. And so about 7 years after I got sober, I get a call from our very close mutual friend, Tim. And I knew why he was calling. It was too early in the morning. And, delivers the news, like Brian's overdosed.
Oh.
And I don't know. I mean, this is becoming like a sobriety podcast, which is great because if there's anything I believe in more than anything else, it's like how to take care of yourself,
This is but I think I would just want to say that the beauty of sobriety is how much you have to change in order to live a life that you want to live and get out of this thing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, okay, but sorry.
I want to say one last point though, is that we were at a party the other night. You and I, we went to this event, right?
Wait, are you going to finish about Brian? Or were you
he
done?
died. Yeah, he overdosed and died. Yeah, he's dead. He's like no longer here. But I think about Brian all the time.
Yes.
And the point I'm getting at is that, we were out the other night. We went to a party. We were in a cute little bar. A bunch of people I didn't know. And a bunch of beautiful people, happy people, right? Everyone's happy, drinks being served. And I'm used to being around drinks. It's been 23 years, like thousands and thousands of days.
Right.
I've been around it. I've had to answer the question, why don't you drink? You don't want to drink? You sure you don't want to drink? Why don't you want to drink? I'm used to it. I'm ready for it. It's no problem.
Yeah.
But no matter where I go, I think about Brian. Right? Because there was a flicker of a moment when we walked in and I was like, oh man, tonight would be a good night to drink. And you know what's funny is I'm not wrong. Any night would be a great night to drink. Except when you have what Brian has. Where you can't slow down, you can't stop, you can't, you don't, a lot of people can drink normally. And so, that's just that. But anyway,
yeah,
I thought about Brian in that room.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And then what you get to do is reinvent the future.
Yes.
And so change is really interesting because, like life, as many milliseconds as there are the and you multiply those by 1 billion each or something, right? Those are all the options you have to change. You can change your mindset. You can change how you stand or sit or like what you're, you know what I mean? Like change is actually so fascinating because even in that moment, like you can change how you like are existing, what the thoughts are in your head. And getting sober, if anything, it's about changing your mind.
Right.
Which is kind of fascinating because that's the flight plan. Change your mind.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah. So we get sober. And we're in New York because we want to do what exactly? Why did we come to New York?
I wanted to be a photographer.
Okay. So New York is a great place. There's models here, there's fashion here, there's photographers here. Great. So how did getting sober affect your career and your journey to being a photographer?
Had a little more money.
Right.
They say successful people have 3 things in common. One is the ability to focus on one thing for a long period of time.
Yep.
You're sober. You can do that, right? You have attention.
Okay.
You have time.
Okay.
You're not wasting time necessarily. This is my perspective, right?
Yes,
I don't know what it's like for anyone else to drink.
Right.
Or do drugs. And then the second thing is a desire to be liked. And what's interesting about, for me, being sober and comparing it with this idea of being liked is that you can actually be liked because you can show up as a supportive, selfless, caring individual in whatever circumstance you're in. You can take a circumstance that might have gone off like negatively, it could even just be with, like in a restaurant or something, but like you can all of a sudden switch it and have it be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry about that. It was like, I didn't mean to say that.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you break through that thing and you sort of receive that benefit of being liked out of a desire to be kind. Mm-hmm. And the last thing is a superiority complex. Oh. Which sounds kind of fucked.
It sounds fucked up, yeah. And I wanted you to, while you're saying that, I also want you to define this definition of success, because there's many definitions of it.
Well, it's impossible to say, but like the way I heard it is that it's not necessarily successful people wake up early and ice bath.
Right.
It's that successful people tend to have these 3 personality traits in common. Mm-hmm. And so if you can focus on something for a long time, if you have a desire to be liked, because if you have a desire to be liked, well, people are probably going to like you. Right. And they're going to want to help you, and they're going to want to work for you, and they're going to want to connect you with their friends.
So it's success in the sense of what is success to you. This is how you become successful in whatever it is that you are trying to be successful in. These types of people have these types of traits. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, well, I would imagine that we are actually talking about very important, influential people.
Influential people.
It could be Obama, right? Does Obama want to be liked? Does he have the ability to focus on one thing for a long time? Does he have a superiority complex? You could probably anecdotally just say yes, yes, yes.
So about the superiority complex, which does sound fucked.
It's interesting.
I'm listening.
It's not fucked. Because what happens is, and especially for me in this state of like, essentially I'm taking poison every day because I hate myself, right? Because I can't live, I can't show up, I don't feel connected, right? I'm like wondering why I'm on this planet.
Right.
And so what happens when you get sober is there's like a self-esteem problem. And I think there's a self-esteem problem that lives way bigger than just sobriety, right?
Right.
We compare ourselves to other people. Social media perpetuates it.
Yep.
But when you have a superiority, what is it? It's also just main character energy.
Okay.
You put it that way, it's fine.
I can get behind that.
But a superiority complex specifically means I am entitled to more. And if you are the main character in your life, you are entitled to all of it. And so when someone gives you a compliment, thank you. I deserve it.
Right.
Right. And I do deserve it because I've worked fucking hard for it.
Right.
Whatever it is.
Right.
And so those 3 things, I believe, were a big part of the results of getting sober that I learned through many different categories.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay. So you're like, okay, I'm basically getting this power now of the like these 3 things, and you want to be a photographer. How do you do that?
Yeah. So at that time in my life, I was waiting tables, and I enjoyed that, right? Like it was fun. I was making money. But I wanted to do photography. Like I really wanted to get a job in photography. And I had been taking pictures since I was like 15. I had a dark room. I loved being outside. I loved taking pictures of nature. And then I learned that you could actually have a job being a photographer.
That. Yeah.
So I went over to the School of Visual Arts on 23rd Street, and I snuck in. I told them I couldn't find my student ID. I went and found the internship board, and I looked for the most recognizable name on the board, and I found David LaChapelle's. I pulled down the whole thing that said they were looking for interns. I called them. I said, can I come in? They were like, no, just send us the resume. I was like, fine. I went and wrote the resume, printed it out, showed up the next morning at 10, and I was like, I'm here to deliver my resume.
Yeah.
And they were kind of uncomfortable with that. And then I showed up the next morning, and I was like, hey, did I get the internship? Like I was just like crazy persistent.
So, okay. Okay. Where do you think that persistence comes from? Have you always been like that? And I'm asking that because that I think is also a very key thing to successful people is persistence.
It's desire. If you want something, you won't give up. Whether you're an Olympian, if you want something bad enough, you will not give up. You may not get it, and you may get something other than what you originally wanted, but the desire is basically a magnet. It's attraction.
Okay.
Desire is like, I want to pull this thing into my life. And so at that time, I wanted to pull in this photography education experience into my life. And I wasn't going to go to school because I already tried that. I failed. Because
you didn't want it enough.
There were multiple things going on, but yeah, probably didn't want it. Probably had a bad time in my life. Anyway, I wanted the job.
Is this the first time that you really desired something in your life, you think?
I think it's the first time that I was technically an adult, responsible for my own actions, and was clear enough of mind to be able to want and perform an act of wanting something.
Okay. That's deep.
Yeah.
That's deep. Because I think that mindset and also putting into perspective circumstances, some people who seem maybe like they aren't persistent enough or they aren't going for something enough, maybe there is underlying depression. Maybe there is a substance abuse problem. Maybe there is all these other things going on in their life, anxiety or whatever, debilitating anxiety for all someone would know. Because I think that, like I said, that is a characteristic of someone being successful. And, you know, like I think about my parents, I have lots of siblings, and it's like, I just don't get why he doesn't But also at this time in their life, something else could be going on. Whereas, you know, you get compared to a lot when you have a lot of siblings. Well, your brother did it this way. What's wrong with you? And you're like, what? Like, you know, so, and they might not know that other thing that's going on in your life. So for the listeners, I'm just saying that to say the mindset being clear, and it seems like this is for one of the first times you ever were so clear on what it is you wanted to do and could actually see it through.
Yeah.
I think that's very important to point out. But okay, so continue. So you wanted this thing, and we got this thing.
Yeah, I got the internship. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, good.
And it was great, you know. And then I would intern from 10 to 4 every day, and then I would go wait tables from 4 to 11 every day. You know, and that's
artist lifestyle.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, and and then they were like, "Do you want a full-time job?" You know, I mean, it's all I wanted to do, so it would make sense that like I would get it. Mm-hmm. There's a saying that says like, "How many hours a week do you work?" Right? Okay, 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week. Multiply that across the year. How many hours is that? What percentage of that is of the year? Right? Mm-hmm. The answer is it's about 22% of the year you're going to work. Now raise your hand if that's what you want to work, and raise your hand if you want to work more than that. And the people that keep their hand raised, the more that they want to work, you look around and those are the people you're going to work for. If your hand is down, 1 in 4 people are going to work
more
everybody else. They're going to outwork everybody else. Those are the people that are going to employ you. Yes,
that makes sense. Wow.
It just comes down to work.
It comes down to work. So you got to work hard.
Yeah. In everything you do.
Yeah. That's a gem. That's good.
That's a gem.
That's a gem. That's good. You got to work hard. You do. And that's a great way to look at it, because a lot of people don't want a manager. You know?
What do you mean?
Like a lot of people they want to do their own thing, and they want to, but they also, if you want to do that thing, then you also have to put in more hours, you know? So, wow. Yeah. Okay.
Well, the irony about entrepreneurship is, you're right. Like I didn't want a manager, right? Like I wanted to be my own boss, but I didn't even know what that was. I didn't want a real job is really what it was. And what's funny is
wait. You didn't want a real job, or you didn't want to do something that made it feel like work? Because you work a lot.
Work is fine.
Okay.
Right. I love work.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
I work all the time.
You do.
I didn't want a real job.
Okay.
Meaning
working
I
for
didn't
someone.
want anything that I wasn't creating.
Okay.
Right. Like I had terms. I was inflexible with those terms. And those terms were that I get to focus on whatever I want to focus on. Right. And now as I've gotten older and built a company and have like a company made up of other people, there are certainly lots of things that I don't like doing.
Right.
That I would consider work more so than other things. But like, that's okay. We do that too.
Yeah. Okay. So if someone is listening to this and they're like, yeah, bro, I just want to do what I want to do too. That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people want to do that. What is it, or should I say, what made you have these non-negotiable things? And like, how did you get to do what you want to do? I know that's like a loaded question, but the mindset we've talked about, right? Persistence is one way to get there. But I think it goes to say also that you're a really curious person. So you're always trying to do something.
Yeah.
And there's always something that you want to do. Yeah. If someone is saying, I want to do that, what would you say should be their steps on how to kind of I don't want to say be their own boss, but invoke their curiosity and actually do those things that they're curious about? Like, how do I make money doing what I'm curious about?
It's different for everybody, right? But for me,
but for you,
for me, I think one of the most important things that I've seen happen in my own life is, curiosity for sure. But it's also flexibility, right? And curiosity means I want to know. Curiosity means I want to learn. Curiosity means teach me. You can't be curious and cocky at the same time. So it's really drop the ego, find out what's going on, keep asking, and don't worry. There's no such thing as too much advice. You should try all of it.
Okay, try all of it.
If it doesn't work, great, move on. If you really have a hunch that it's going to work, great, double down. What flexibility means is really letting go of the result. Because in life isn't an NFL game. And even if it is, you can have an incredible career and never win a ring.
Right.
If you want fame, I would caution you against that. Right? Fame is really a dangerous thing. Now, if you want to be recognized for what you've done, maybe you can be on a Super Bowl team that doesn't win and you can be recognized by your family, your peers, your friends, your teammates. It's different, right? Like there needs to be an internal desire that's pulling you towards all this stuff. And you know, I would try to say, let's make that desire as broad as it can be. But even if it is specific, like for me, it was like, I want to be a photographer. Right. That was my desire.
At that time.
Why did I want to be a photographer? Well, I could, I could do whatever I want. I could take pictures of anything. I could travel. I could meet people. Every day was something new, right? Like there was no format. There was no plan. It was tactile. I could play with this thing. There was some science involved. I developed the film. Beautiful thing. I get to look at a picture. It's poetry. It's not math. A good photo is subjective. It fit my criteria. Yeah. And to be on some level, what I do now fits that criteria too, except there's $1 at the end of the day. Right. That's the scorecard. But flexibility is sort of like really the biggest change in my life, second to getting sober, was when I got into golf. Right. And so my brother, 10 years older than me, lawyer, conservative type, had been playing golf through some clubs that he found in a garage sale since he was 15. So golf was in his life. It wasn't really in my family. And he kept inviting me to play golf. And I said, no. I don't want to do that. It's not like me. I'm not a golfer. They're terrible people. I don't want to play.
They're terrible people.
Once and for all, do not ask me to play anymore. One day, 2008, 2009, he said, do you want to play golf? Or 2011, I can't remember, whatever, 12, 13 years ago. Yeah. He said, hey, me and Dad are going to go play golf. Do you want to play? And I was like, no. So at this time, I'm 29, right? I had my own type of career. I wasn't working for a photographer anymore. I was fully, self-employed contractor, which...
As a director.
As a photographer, director kind of thing. And if you aspire to have that, I would warn you, it's not as fun as it sounds. It's
Unless you love this shit.
Unless you love the shit and you're fun, it's like if that's fun, if challenge is fun, enjoy it. But if you don't like challenge, just go get a normal job. Yeah. And just keep changing jobs until you have the title you want. Right. But
that's one way to do it.
So he's like, do you want to play golf? I was like, no. And then this thing echoed in my head, kind of this moment of clarity where I was like, why am I saying no? I'm kind of a yes guy. I'm a guy that says yes to shit. I'm a guy that tries things. I'm a curious guy. I said, you know what? I'll play.
So you had another one of those moments.
Yeah. And he was like, wait, really? I was like, yeah, I'll go play golf. And he's like, oh my God, got me some khakis, got me a polo. I'm all dressed up now, going to the golf course. And I had the best time.
You have fun khakis and a polo now.
I'm literally wearing what I wore that day.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. So you go and you love it.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that's a flexibility and an openness that I think is really crucial to entrepreneurial existence, where it's and it's happened multiple times in my life where it's I learned photography, but I never really had success with photography per se. But now the skill of photographs is very important in how I build my business. Right? Like images. What do they mean? What are we saying with this? Is it slouching? What color is it? You know,
and it really helped you become better at what you're doing now. That experience. Yeah.
The experience of being sober, right? Like that's directly in line with what Random Golf Club is. Like our goal is to build the biggest and most inclusive golf club in the world. A lot of the like components of that, even desire, but really the experience I had when I got sober was that the world was filled with people who have so much in common and we don't even realize it. Right? Like the tattoo on my finger is a tattoo that represents being sober. Right? It's on my index finger. People see it and all of a sudden we have something deeper in common. And golf has a similar thing like that. And so you kind of build this like, you know, communities are a really important part of life nowadays, especially as we get more digital, more artificial intelligence, things like that. And I learned that through getting sober is how communities can help each other.
So for our listeners who, we gonna make golf relatable for us. Okay.
We can do that.
Yeah. Why you have said that golf is spiritual. Why do you feel that way?
Everything's spiritual.
Oh, everything is.
Absolutely everything.
Okay, so why is golf spiritual? What is the spiritual side of golf?
Yeah, golf is a great, you know, experience of spirituality, because I think, you know, spirituality mostly shows up in people's lives during times of difficulty, right? Like no one's like, I need help when things are going great. Yeah, there's obviously, you can't make a blanket statement like that, but you know, golf is interesting because, you know, it's a puzzle, you know, and the better you get at it, the harder it gets. The smaller the envelope gets for success, the better you are. And so on that logic, it's sort of this image of, you know, a fishing rod with a carrot and you keep chasing it and you'll never get it. Never get it. Tiger, not happy with how he's playing.
Really?
Even when he might have won.
Yeah.
He probably still felt like there was a shot or two that he could have hit better. And
so why would someone want to, why do you think everyone should try golf, by the way? Do you think like everyone should try it?
Yeah, why not?
Okay.
I mean, I'll go, look, I'll tell you why, right? Okay, so one, like that's a hyper one, the whole like puzzle component, but like you're outside, right? Being outside is good for you. Yep. Fact. Trees and landscapes, those are good for you. Fact. They've proven.
Golf courses are beautiful.
Yeah, and they're good for you. You can definitely say, oh, like pesticides, water usage, and I would agree.
Okay.
But we're not here to talk about those issues.
Okay.
Right. I do try to work within that and find courses that are more sustainable than others. But, you know, at some point, you know, planes are bad. Okay, I got it. But also the interesting thing about golf is that you're spending time with other people, ideally, and it's actually very vulnerable. Like the golf swing it's hard. Playing golf is hard. So you're essentially walking around with a group of people in nature, making a fuckload of mistakes, right? And what's really interesting about golf, all that stuff notwithstanding, what's really interesting about golf is that you're basically trying to do the impossible over and over again. The better you get, the harder it is. And really the spiritual component of golf lies in how you react and how you treat yourself. And beyond that, there's even an internal reaction that most people aren't aware of. What am I saying to myself? Why am I here? What are you doing here? You're wasting your money. You shouldn't be here. Whoa. There's an opportunity to really listen to the tape. And golf is great, right? Like, because you really, I believe the people that really play and enjoy golf are those types of people. They say type 1 fun and type 2 fun. Type 1 fun is like actually fun, like go-karting.
Right, fun.
Type 2 fun is like hard fun, challenge fun, like hiking.
Right.
Something like that. Like it's not like, oh, wow, this is fun. You're like kind of like, okay, I'm working for the reward.
Yes.
Golf is definitely type 2 fun. I think a lot of people think it's type 1 fun because the images of golf that pervade like all of the, you know, golfing in the like in like our language of imagery. We think of golf, and I know you're imagining it's an older white dude in a private club who's rich, selfish, and probably an asshole. That's because every movie
is that not
and TV
what
show,
you thought too?
I thought it. That's why I didn't want to play.
Right.
But I found that's not true. In fact, it's actually like statistically not true. Most golfers are public. They don't have like some crazy costume of a golfer. They're actually really nice. And, but the stereotype was created out of movies and TV where anytime you see someone with a golf club, they're the villain. And it's actually pretty much true by and large, except for like a couple golf movies. Like it's an easy hack for the writer or the director to put a golf club in someone's hand, and they immediately become selfish and disconnected.
Anyway. Murder weapon.
Yeah. What is it? Mulholland Drive, right?
Murder weapon.
You like using a golf club.
Yeah.
But anyway, golf is spiritual, to summarize the thought, because you're essentially, it's a game in your mind. And so how well you play it is essentially how well you're able to deal with difficulty. And for me, a big lesson in golf is this kind of Chinese farmer quote, which is like, good news, bad news, who knows? I don't know. And that's best, when you hit a bad shot in golf, you have an opportunity to hit a great shot right afterwards. And so you have a chance to really look at your own, like maybe it's not even a thought. It could even be like a emotional wavelength, which, hey, you need to take responsibility for your own emotions. Golf is proof of that. If you want to be a baby and complain about the results of a shot that aren't your fault, got a bad bounce, cool, go ahead.
Right. And you've seen that, I'm sure.
Yeah, go ahead. Be a baby.
Yeah.
Great. I'm sure you're like that in traffic. I'm sure you're like that when someone stiffs you somehow.
Okay.
But there's another way to do this, which is like, oh, cool. This is interesting. How are we going to do this? What am I going to do with this moment? How am I going to frame this as a positive?
Well, you said doing something hard. And I think a lot of successful people also challenge themselves, be it physically, be it tennis, have a hobby that is something, you play basketball, whatever it is, do something, soccer, that they challenge themselves and compete.
Yeah.
And there's something to be said about competing and putting yourself out there, because there is a chance to lose, and lots of successful people have lost many times.
Oh yeah. It's mostly losing.
Right. So that's a gem. Try the hard thing.
Yeah.
Doing the hard thing and challenging yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny because like you only really need one.
Exactly.
You just need one good one.
Right. You don't have to do it so much. Okay.
And it's funny because the L, like it's not finite, right? You decide where the bottom of that loss is. Because you can take a loss and be like, you know what? I'm not convinced that it's truly a loss. I'm going to just change it a little bit. I'm just going to change it a little bit. Like the whole funny thing is like I got into golf. As a filmmaker, I started making this golf documentary about golf and meditation. I was sober. I meditated. I got into Buddhism. I found this whole world of people. I started working on this golf documentary. I was really stoked about it. The PGA Tour called me and they were like, dude, we want you to host a video for us. And I was like, no way. I'm not a host. You got the wrong guy. I'm a filmmaker.
Right.
I'm behind the camera and I'm honestly kind of offended. And they were like, okay, well, if you change your mind, let us know. We've got, a pretty flexible budget. And I was like, budget? And they were like, yeah, we'll pay you to do a show. You just need to host it. And I was like, I'll do whatever the fuck you want if you have money. So I did it. I learned how to be a host, open-minded. I was like, whatever, I'll be on camera. And what's funny is it really isn't that different from being a class clown as an 8-year-old. I just clown around. Like I just fucking tell jokes. I do whatever I want to do. If I think it's interesting, I believe someone else will find it interesting.
And yes, and I had a podcast and someone said that, and I think that is the human experience. That is the human connection.
Yeah.
It is why we go through things, and that is the reason why people are put in front of a camera to express those things that they go through.
Yeah.
Because someone else is probably going through it too. We're human. Like there's only so many things that people are going through, right?
Wait, to summarize that last point though, is like I was making this documentary.
Oh yes, sorry.
No, it's okay. I mean, I can't believe I actually remembered that there was, but I was making this documentary and it's never come out.
What?
Yeah, it never came out.
Yet?
No, it doesn't even need to anymore because it merely birthed a new thing.
Oh, for you to get this job.
Yeah, so I'm saying is like, it's like.
But can it come out?
It can come out. I have
Golf
a copy.
and
You want to watch
meditation
it?
is like
it's
me
dope.
and you.
It's sick. Look, the reason it hasn't come out is like just stupid like Hollywood BS. Like it doesn't even matter. But the point is like it begat something else that is now my career.
Right.
It's going to be much huger than a golf documentary. We're creating something you can touch.
But the idea of golf and meditation, I kind of love that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you'd be into it. Yeah. I want to tell you a quick funny story too about my dad that I just remembered. So my dad is a physicist, and he was, he's a really interesting guy to talk to, right? And he's like super smart, like he knows about the Big Bang and shit, like at a molecular level. And he's like, he won this award when I was like 5, and it was like a pretty big award. He basically invented an equation of how to measure measure something with superconductors.
Okay.
Like something you can't see, but he could measure it.
Yeah.
What's funny is the way he stumbled upon that equation was because he fucked up an experiment.
Ah.
Yeah, so he had set up some experiment in his lab. He came in the morning and realized that he had his settings wrong.
Wow.
And he was like, oh man. But then he looked closer and he was like, wait a minute. I think I just found out something else. And then he did that experiment the next night and he did realize that. And then he sort of like, and so
I just got chills from that.
Really?
Yes.
Let's chill. Because it goes back to that thing that I've learned through my own experience. I didn't even know the story about my dad's equation until recently, like the last couple of years.
Right.
But it goes back to what I was saying earlier. It's about flexibility.
Right.
And curiosity. If you're curious and flexible, you can win.
Right.
You can win in ways that you can't even imagine, because if you're that curious and flexible and hardworking,
and the hard work. Yep.
You got to work hard.
Yeah.
But you could win in so many ways. And the great news is that life is an adventure. The goal is you don't know how it ends.
Right.
The goal is it's not written. It's written if you're watching Dune, but it's not written for you. You haven't read it yet.
Yeah.
And so what's really cool is as you write the story of your life day by day, curiosity, flexibility, I think that's what creates like these wild stories of like, all I wanted to do was this. I ended up doing the complete different thing. And then it ended up being impactful and people noticed. And now I have a business.
Yeah. And my first episode is called Your Career is a Journey, and that is the journey. And so just like that thing that your dad was working on that wasn't right, but then he found something else. It's like your documentary that you were working on. Not that it wasn't right, but it didn't happen. But then this other thing happened to catapult you into your other career.
Yeah.
And you put out really great content.
Thank you.
About golf, and someone who I don't know a lot about golf. I still find your content interesting, and because you're a great storyteller. So, and people want to hear stories, so all of that kind of goes with my last question for you, which is, do you think life is by design?
What do you mean by design?
Do you think that these pieces that were put together for you to be where you are today, do you think it was designed that way, or do you or not? Because you can look back and see the dots connect, right? Like I did this, and then that happened, and then that happened, and that happened. I can do that too in my own life and how I ended up in this chair, right? So do you think that's by design? There's no right or wrong answer, obviously. Sure. It's what you think.
I mean, there's no way to verify.
You're right. Well, let me phone up God really quick.
Yeah.
Hey, boo.
Have you ever seen the Ellen calling God thing? Ellen DeGeneres calling God?
No.
Oh, we have to watch it afterwards. It's so funny.
Okay.
It's funny because I have no problem talking about this amongst friends. And I do have a very distinct opinion.
Oh.
But for some reason, I'm like...
You can't say it.
No, I'll say it. But I guess I want to point out one thing before.
Okay.
Which is I have no way of knowing.
Obviously. None of us do.
But from where I'm sitting now, when I look back at my life, it is hard to overestimate that flexibility and curiosity and hard work sort of like perfectly landing with the ball in the pocket each time. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's almost like absurd. Like the level of probability for it to be into a place, right? Like, oh, what would I be doing if I wasn't doing what I was doing? I don't know, but I can't imagine anything making me feel more fulfilled than what I do now.
Right.
Yesterday
that is
was
success to me, by the way.
I agree. Mm-hmm. Yesterday was maybe like the best day of my life, like up there. Mm-hmm. As far as business goes. So like one of the things I look for in the world is like coincidences, and And whenever they occur, I pay attention, right? It's like, where am I? What's happening? Why am I here? Where am I going? Where was I? Like, why did this happen? Random moments. Why did that happen? Usually when it happens, I tell myself, I'm in the right place. Right? I'm doing the right thing. So this is supposed to be. This is written. You know, and this is Deepak, right? He says coincidences are basically an indication that you're living in source. Source being that unconscious voice that spoke to me on the day I got sober or the day I decided to try golf. Like source is unconscious, deeper, like eternal vibration of what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, and Christians would say that source is God.
Sure. Yeah.
Being led by.
Yeah. And, you know, source is typically kind, patient, gracious. So anyway, I believe in determinism. So I believe that we are all on a path.
Yes.
And within that, there's choices.
Yes.
But those choices, you know, ultimately, the more that those are made from source and from, you know, kindness, gratitude, patience, things like that, generosity, like the more that we sort of choose to create within that purpose, ultimately, I believe the closer we get to success. So it's funny to ask a question about, you know, like fate in a podcast about success, right? Because, you know, someone out there might be thinking, well, I'm not supposed to be successful. Be careful with that kind of thinking.
Right.
Because you don't fucking know.
Well, yeah. And I always say that, like what you said, you wouldn't be doing anything else. Whatever, right? Like you said that. A guy who walks kids across the street every day to make sure they get to school safely could say that same thing.
Sure.
And to me, that is success. When you're not wanting and wishing, I wish I was this, I wish I was that, I wish I could. If you're walking in your purpose and whatever that is, and for some people that's having millions and millions of dollars, for some people that's being the cross guard walk person who gets the kids to school okay.
Yeah.
That is success to me because they don't want to be anywhere else but where they are. And that is, you know, being connected to, I think, yourself, source, God. You know, I always say I have a chain to God where when I found that chain and I felt it and I started walking in that purpose, my life changed. My life completely changed. And I know when I wasn't, I felt when I wasn't.
Yeah.
So it's all interconnected, in my opinion, to success and what that means to each individual person.
Yeah, I agree.
So you do believe that it's by design? Or you don't?
I do, but I think on some level there is agency within that, but it's kind of like, I guess what I kind of believe is like, everything is happening as it is supposed to. Even more so when I'm like living in source, right? And then coincidences are occurring, things are happening. This morning I walked out of my hotel, literally walked 2 steps, run into someone that I hadn't seen in a year. They had been to one of our events.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you found $100 on the floor, which never happens in New York City. No,
that didn't happen.
Okay, sorry. Okay.
I did get $100 when I checked into my hotel, thanks to my credit card. Anyway, no, no, but like, you know, it's like,
but like, that's where you're supposed to be.
Like, here's the example, right? So I was in my hotel room this morning and I was like, man, I don't feel like having all these meetings today. So I canceled a few of them. And then I got a message from someone who was like, hey man, I'm, you know, like in New York and like, I wanted to talk to you because I just got sober. And I was like, great, let's make some time.
By design.
Right. And then I was like, come meet me. Right. So he comes to the hotel and like, I just walked down, I come out and I run into these 2 people that are like, hey man, we were at the Detroit event, the random golf club event last year. And I was like, oh, cool. And then, you know, it's a guy and a girl, husband and wife. And she's like, hey, I'm throwing this event on Monday with Lewis Hamilton. Would you want to come? And I was like, oh my God, it's the one I cannot go. But I am a Lewis Hamilton like groupie.
Stan. Yeah.
Love him.
Stan fan.
And what's funny is just like, I don't know, like you could walk out a few minutes later.
Yeah.
Never have it. And they were like, we got to go.
Yeah.
They were like, we're leaving.
Yeah.
And so I guess what I'm saying is like, everywhere you look, there's more. there's more there. And the more...
And there's signs.
Yeah. There's signs, right? Like, and the more that you start to really find that flow of your purpose, your source, things start to happen almost passively, like in the laws of attraction. And like, we haven't talked about Joe Dispenza.
We haven't, and we can't.
We can or we cannot?
We cannot.
Well, look, we need to just say this. Like, one of the things that really changed my life was listening to Joe Dispenza's morning meditation for the last 3 years every day. Right? And then what I learned is my thoughts create my feelings,
yes,
which create my experience.
Yes.
And so if I take control of my thoughts and I choose what I think about, then that will have an effect on my feelings and how I feel about life. And then that will in turn change my experience. It will literally change the way things look.
Epigenetics.
And so, you know it. And it's super important, like going back to like taking care of your body, taking care of your mind, like, you know, whatever, sobriety, drinking less, whatever it is, going to bed early. Like those things are all actually pretty important because your body is the car. Take care of it if you want to win. Take care of it if you want to drive fast. You know what I mean? Like, and so with the mind, take care of that too, because that's what frames things as good or bad.
The body is the car.
Yeah.
Yes, I did a solo episode and I played a Joe Dispenza video that I listened to every day for 3 to 6 months before I quit my corporate job. Thanks, Joe. Thanks.
He will drive you.
Yeah.
Someplace special. Yeah.
I listen to it every day. It's amazing. And I tell so many people about it when they are looking for reasons, intention. It's about intention. So it's great. Well, can you tell everyone where to follow you on socials? Because you put out great content. And if you are listening to this and you do like golf and you probably know who he is already. If you want to know more about golf, we didn't get into dating, but
there's a dating component on this show?
There's a dating component on this show, yeah, because obviously I was on a dating show, so people want to know about that.
Which show?
Where should people go? Where should people go to meet hot guys who golf?
To the golf course, to one of my events.
To one of your events.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we're hosting 30 events this summer.
There you go.
You know, all over the United States.
And ladies are welcome.
Yeah, of course. Ladies
Cute
come
outfits.
free.
Ladies come free.
Ladies come free. Yeah, we'll do it.
Yeah, ladies come free.
Just mention Natasha when you get it. It's
oh my
awesome.
God. Literally, ladies go and find you a golfer bay.
Yeah, and just like, you know, you don't need clubs. You can be a spectator. You can hang out. You got to bring energy.
Bring that energy.
You got to be like, we have spectator tickets too. So you can just show up and like watch. And I think those are free. So you can just like show up. If you want to play, great. But like, it's not about playing well.
Yes.
It's not about,
where can they find where to go?
Yeah. So you can text me. Not me personally, but we have an SMS, which is like a great way to message us. So that's 833-3-putted, which is 3-putting is not a good thing, but it's kind of a joke.
Oh, okay.
But then everything's Random Golf Club, right? Website, socials, and then my personal is Erik Anders Lang, and that's with a K.
Am I invited to one of these?
Yeah.
Okay. Ladies, we're going to go. I'll let you know which one I go to. I'll bring a gang of ladies.
I love it. Yeah, we'll be in the Bronx in August, I think.
You guys hear that? My Manhattan girlies, we're going to the Bronx. We're going to the Bronx.
I can't wait.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming on my podcast.
Thank you for having me. I was honored.
I could talk to you for a long time. You're only the second guy to have for us to be on this podcast, so
really?
You should feel honored. Yes.
I'd like to speak to the other guy too. We could do a side pod.
You'll meet him one day.
Okay, good.
You'll meet him one day. Okay. Well, thank you guys. Thank you to our listeners. Thank you, Erik, for coming on. I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. I hope y'all put some change into your life and be flexible, like he said. Add some flexibility into your life. And he definitely Kim K'd us and said, work hard. You gotta work if you want to do some shit. But I'll see you guys next week. I can't wait. Bye. Thanks for listening to Hidden Gems with me, your host, Natasha Parker. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. It really helps grow our budding community. Follow me on IG at Natasha Parker and the show at Gems with Natasha. Hidden Gems with Natasha Parker is produced by Gotham Production Studios.